it's Jewel back with another super cool astrology video. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about empaths in astrology and codependency and why this is very much tied together. I had a really big response to my last video about the empath-narcissist dynamic in a relationship, and I had a lot of comments and messages from viewers that wanted me to kind of expand on that topic. So I thought I'd put a video in here and there, kind of exploring that. It's a very complex subject. There's actually a lot to talk about when it comes to what creates the alchemy for such a relationship to come into being. So when we're talking about people that get into relationships that are abusive or unhealthy in a Neptunian way, those are going to be very codependent relationships. People that have a lot of empathy tend to struggle with dependency issues as well. And so when we look for codependency or unhealthy dependencies in the birth chart, we look to Neptune first of all. Because Neptune shows unhealthy dependencies, it's not like the moon that shows our habitual dependencies, our past dependencies as related to the mother or that come from the past. Because that type of dependency is a necessary thing. It's a natural thing that happens. Neptunian dependencies are different in that they arise out of our early experiences of things not being quite right. So, Neptune has a very illusory quality. And codependency is a way of being that is very much born out of a need for connection and safety. Because the birth chart is very much descriptive of our early nature and our early environment, and I don't want to say our early nature, of our true nature actually, and of our early environment, and how we responded to that, and what we are now, and the strengths and the weaknesses that were born out of that. And I am not going to get into the chicken or the egg, where do you grow into your birth chart, or are you born with it, and how do we know that? And that really just comes to, we do not really understand time. We think we do, but we are standing from a point of view where we cannot see everything because we are not supposed to. And time is a circle. It is not a straight line. So the birth chart makes sense when you see it or view it from a larger perspective, not a human perspective. So where Neptune is in our chart is the part of us, the part of our nature and our character that's too forgiving, where we see the best in others and we can ignore the worst, where we experience our victim-savior issues, our hidden addictions, our unacknowledged addictions is another one there, and where we give more than we take, where we don't expect enough, where we aren't deserving enough. And it is also our survivor's guilt is another one, our guilt in general. Our existential guilt is with Pluto, but our survivor guilt, or our guilt about doing better or having more, is our guilt related to our deserving things is Neptune. So it is a boundaryless planet. It has a very spiritual style of dealing with things and with approaching life. So you know, where all the planets have a character, And they are typically more personable. Well, all of them, not typically, not Uranus, but it's in a different way. Neptune is not by nature obviously selfish, as the other planets are more me-oriented, right from, they're very honest about that. Neptune is about the collective, it's about the everything, it's all-inclusive. Behind all of that is selfishness, however, because it's looking to be satisfied. So it is a planet that very much appears as one thing and is something else because of the nature of him. He's very foggy and misty and things aren't clear. So the house that Neptune falls into in your chart, or where others most frequently traverse our boundaries, and describes who does that traversing, where we have our main boundary problems, and the aspects to Neptune definitely are going to show more of the story. So, where we martyr ourselves and sacrifice inappropriately, that is what Neptune is doing, and where he's lying and whatever he's contacting, an aspect is going to show you the whole picture there. So it's most difficult and most destabilizing to have Neptune in the 1st, the 4th, the 7th, sometimes the 9th or the 11th houses. The ascendant ruler, strongly an aspect to Neptune, even an easy aspect because of the nature of what Neptune is. He doesn't get honest because he's in a good aspect. You just see less difficulties with your being able to see that. It's more of an assumed reality of the Neptunian things. So, Sun, Moon, Venus, Mars, the personal planets in aspect to Neptune can show where these boundary issues are coming from. So, it's really basically about establishing boundaries, reorienting our outlook as indicated by the planets or points aspected to Neptune to have a more realistic perception. So we grow out of the fog and the fantasy land and Wishville and move into Reality Cove when we really start to deal with our Neptune issues. And, we really lie to ourselves thickly where Neptune is. And the stories that go back and forth between the planets and points that are in aspect to Neptune and whatever house Neptune is in, they are so believable that they take exposure to life in order to see through. We very much have to grow out of our Neptune issues. We have to get beat up by life to some degree and be exposed to the realities of what we're really dealing with and who we're really dealing with before we start changing that style. So, nobody ever knows us if we don't have our personal boundaries. Nobody will ever know you because you will just be this collection and reflection of what you think other people want or how you want other people to see you. So there's really no honesty in Neptune. We show up in ways that have a lot to do with shoulds. So there's a deep inauthenticity when we're dealing with especially hard Neptune aspects in the birth chart. So we end up often inviting, as a result of heavy or hard or thick Neptune in our charts, unhealthy relationships because the boundaries are not there. We have to be able to establish who I am and who you are and where I begin and where you end if people are going to understand who you are. So it's very much about establishing, realizing, first of all, that the problem lies in unhealthy boundaries. Having the courage to establish that, take on a more mature way of connecting the energies between those two planets. And we have to live in reality, is what it comes down to. Yes, the planet, the energy between points or planets with Neptune are going to be naturally oriented to wanting to express in a 12th house manner, in a spiritual manner, in a collective manner, in a boundaryless manner. That doesn't work in the three-dimensional world where you're dealing with the hard realities of life and people. So we have to come to grips with the issues, our Neptune issues. And it is okay to remain forgiving. It is okay to remain compassionate. It is okay to look for the best. But we have to learn to balance that with the dimension that we currently live in, which is not the spiritual dimension. So in approaching reality with a style that is of a different dimension, it's very much like you're invited to a party. Let's say this. You're invited to a party, and it's a birthday party. But you really like to dress up. And so you decide to dress like it's an evening party. And you come and dressed up, in a long dress, and you got your nice bag, and your hair's all big. You show up, and you're uncomfortable. And you're not doing well. It's not really working out for you because everybody else is in jeans. It's a barbecue. So your style, okay, that may be your style. Yes, you may like to wear long velvet dresses to go grocery shopping. But it doesn't really work when you're trying to build relationships and show up to a party where nobody knows you and build relationships or friendships. They're going to think you're a freak. So you have to come to grips with the fact that you're going to have to compromise somehow. And you're going to have to learn to show up in life in a way that is real. So when we can come to that point, and typically it's a maturity thing with Neptune. Saturn issues, Neptune issues, oftentimes moon issues are maturity issues. We very much have to grow or learn our way out of them. So when we do that, and we can really start to operate in a way that is more realistic rather than wishful, we can see the satisfaction that we were trying to achieve with a maladaptive style. So this is one where we just have to get real. That's it. And decide that we want to be happy more than we want to remain in our victim mindset. Because with Neptune and not growing out of those issues, there's a big pass in that. There's a big payoff because you really don't have to take a lot of responsibility for your own happiness. You don't really have to take a lot of responsibility for getting to where you want to go or not getting to where you want to go, because it's the world that's keeping you back, or it's this person, or it's that person, or this issue. There's always going to be something to blame. And in growing up out of that and in establishing our boundaries, we also have to take responsibility at the same time. Yeah. And when we do that, there is actually a huge, tremendous satisfaction, because we take our power, in strong Neptune aspects. We are giving away our power, is what it is. When we blame, or when we feel victimized, or we play the victim or savior role, we are not able to change anything. Because as long as you are blaming, as long as you are putting the power for what's happening to you on something outside of yourself, no matter what that is, you're saying that that thing has more power than you, because it's keeping you in this position. You can't change, you can't do better, you can't accept responsibility for this or that, because this thing outside yourself is so powerful. And that's the lie with Neptune, is that we think we're keeping our power by having these dependent characteristics, when really we're giving it away. And we're lying to ourselves about why or how. So it isn't that the world is not conferring to you. This is the higher explanation of what I was explaining before. It's a little bit deeper, a higher octave of what I was talking about. In accepting that our style doesn't work, we can see behind why we had that style in the first place. And it was very much connected to being able to remain in a state of inaction, or a state of being able to not take responsibility. Because in taking responsibility, we also have to take control. And in taking control, we have to show up in the world. And in being highly Neptunian, or seeing things through a very Neptunian lens, we never have to do that, because the power is always going to be outside of ourselves. And what can we do? What can I do? This isn't allowing me to change. So we end up with that mindset, and we end up in relationships that are chronically dissatisfying, that are chronically taking our power. And it's that we are willingly giving it away and telling ourselves a story. And it's a story about, I'm a victim, but we are victimizing ourselves. And this comes very much from the patterns of the past, where we are soaking up those early situations, and we are playing it out now. So our style is just simply not working. And we need to look past these surface reasons for why we think we're doing that. So I hope this was helpful. I'm sure I'll be back with more videos on the subject, maybe going to the more subtle, different details or facets of it. And you can find me on the internet at truthandaspectastrology.com. You can find me on Facebook at Truth and Aspect Astrology, where you should be following me, because I do weather forecasting, astro weather forecasting, birthday descriptions, articles. I also specialize in asteroids and planetoids, so you can find my articles and writings over there and on my website. And I'll be back super soon with more super cool videos. Bye-bye.